Hey guys, thanks for stopping by for another video here at All I See is W. In today's video, I'd like to cover technical analysis of Bitcoin. We'll also be covering the big three miners. I'll be sharing my technical analysis of Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot. We'll be covering the latest updates with Bitcoin as well, and I'll be sharing some video clips from Coinbase CEO as well as Michael Saylor clips. So I encourage you to watch through the entire video. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate the like and the subscribe. Share it to your network. Thank you guys. Let's get started. Let's take a look at technicals of Bitcoin. So we do see Bitcoin hovering in this bull flag channel. It's been consolidating for many months now. In fact, getting close to about, just 4 or 5 months here. And what we've saw is just retracement from the all-time high, Bitcoin getting up to close to 110,000. A couple of weeks ago, we saw Bitcoin support level established at like 76,000. However, we're beginning to see some nice, healthy consolidation just in the near term. I think with all of the news going on with Strategic Bitcoin Reserve as well as the 2025 Bitcoin Act for the government to buy up additional Bitcoin for the next 4 to 5 years, getting up to about 1 million Bitcoins on their US Treasury, that is showing signs of hope here. And with Bitcoin just consolidating, I do think that there's potential for Bitcoin to break out. I'm thinking somewhere around that range of 150 to 200,000. I think most realistically here, we're going to see Bitcoin gap up into that. I'm thinking $180,000 is my perspective in this year, 2025. We're beginning to see that, that healthy consolidation in this bullish flag here, but I think that we're going to start breaking out, getting into that next leg up here. Why am I so bullish with Bitcoin right now? We look at the Bitcoin Ramble price chart as well. This gives us a high level overview of what happens every post halving event for Bitcoin. So for every halving event here, we let just with the historical data tell the story. We see every halving event with a big time bull run here, another bull run here. We see another bull run here. Now, with the halving that took place back in April of last year, we're getting close to about 11 months now, and we're expected to see a bull run as well. It hasn't really topped or anything yet. It's still hovering in that dark green hue here, where it's in that buy accumulation phase. Until we start seeing relative strength kick in, I do think that Bitcoin can very well gap up into 180,000 in the year 2025. One of the key indicators that is very important when we look at, just with the price of Bitcoin in terms of where it's headed is looking at leading variables such as the M2 global supply growth. So we're looking at the liquidity across the entire globe here, not just the United States, but we're looking at M2 supply in all countries that is represented in pink here. So what are we seeing? M2 supply, just with March, we're above, $108 trillion. That's a 3.76, percent growth. Even though that's a single digit percent increase, think about how much money that is attributed to. So with that increase in M2 money supply, Bitcoin is going to follow. Now, one of the things is that Bitcoin takes about 8 to 10 weeks for it to start following and correlating with M2 money supply. So, as you see here early in the phase here with October pink line M2 supply going up, what happened after that? Bitcoin began to follow. So, this is a healthy indicator here. We see that inverse pattern right now with Bitcoin price retracing. But I think given the fact that we're seeing that leading indicator M2 supply showing that reversal upward motion here, we're going to see Bitcoin price start ramping up here. So very good signs just based on this macro scale level, just with the flow of liquidity here. With that, I want to play a quick video clip of CEO of Coinbase to see what he has to say.
Well, we have seen just incredible growth, and I think it hit an all-time high yesterday. So we feel very good about that. But I think over time we'll see Bitcoin get into the millions, multiple millions price range. I mean, it's being adopted by more and more institutional customers. The ETFs brought in a huge amount of inflow. If we get clear legislation passed in the US, that would be a big milestone. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, if the US took that path, probably the rest of the G20 would follow. In fact, I've discussed with a number of finance ministers here in Switzerland from different countries around the world, just the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They're getting more interested in it now because the US is looking into it. So I think Bitcoin has a long way to go. It's going to be the new gold standard out there. And crypto is really much bigger than that too. It's about payments.
Let's take a look at this posting here from Michael Saylor. So BMAX was an ETF that was created. And one of the interesting things is that when you look at the top fund holdings here, you'll see a number of percentages dispersed around MSTR. So this ETF consists primarily of MSTR convertible bonds, but one of the interesting things is you also see here Mara and Riot also part of that ETF fund. Now, when you think about the top three North American companies that have the most Bitcoin on their treasury, that's obviously MSTR at like more than 500,000 bitcoins, as well as Mara, close to about 50,000 bitcoins, and Riot close to about 20,000 bitcoins on their treasury. So a very interesting take here, and I think that is only going to attract more investors who are interested in convertible bonds to stack into this ETF as a leverage to Bitcoin. Now, with that, I want to go through technical analysis. Let's see where the traders of MSTR want to take the price of MSTR up to or down to. Now, one of the interesting things is we're beginning to see the bulls of MSTR really try to push up the price of MSTR. We got a really good Friday where MSTR got a green candle of 13%. We want to keep that trajectory here. But just overall, I think one of the key things is not having MSTR break through that support level around the $200. I don't think we're going to get that low. However, we may see more turbulence. It's all dependent on Wall Street where we want to see the overall S&P go. But based on what we're seeing here with the volatility of MSTR, we've seen just consistent consolidation since that all-time high of $550. So I definitely do think dollar cost averaging right now into MSTR, let's say if you bought into that high 380, it's okay. It's only when you sell that's when you take a loss. But let's say if you bought in high at 380 or even 400 and where the current price is, I wouldn't worry so much. MSTR is only going to bounce back. It's just we're going through heavy turbulence right now. You look at the relative strength back in November. I mean, that was extremely overbought. But now, just with relative strength, just with the fear factor kicking in below 20, we're only going to see the relative strength increase. And the good news is that we're seeing that the price hovering in this bull flag, we're going to see that run back up here. One of the key indicators I think is going to be very important is seeing that, that price action break through that $340. Depending on the momentum, let's say if we see the price break through that interim resistance, I think that we may very well start seeing MSTR get back into that $400 range sometime in April. And we may very well get back into the races where MSTR can start testing its prior resistance of 550, all dependent on the price of Bitcoin. So think about Bitcoin price if and when it can break through 150 to $180,000. I think that we may very well see MSTR reach all-time highs in this year 2025. There's just so much going on right now. Even BlackRock accumulated more shares of MSTR as well as buying Bitcoin. We've heard a number of financial institutions buying, even Canada buying MSTR, as well as even in California, retirement state, for teaching funds. They're also hodling up MSTR. So I think a lot of investors all around the world are very attracted to, just with MSTR as the ultimate leverage to holding on to Bitcoin. So I think that is one of the interesting things here, just seeing the technicals, price action hovering in this bull flag for quite some time now, and eventually we're going to see that price run back up. Let's take a look at technicals of Marathon Holdings. So what we've seen is, just around that time point of November when Trump got the news that he is going to be the upcoming president, we're going to see Trump 2.0. Since then, we've seen Mara go from $30 to where it currently hovering is to the sub $13. So that's about 65% drop off here. So one of the interesting things is when you look at the relative strength, in fact, it got down below the 20. I don't think it's ever dropped to that relative strength for that low in such a long time. But the key thing is, buying when RSI is that low, just based on technicals, I think that's where there's so much potential for big time run ups, given the fact that we've seen the price action hover in this bull flag, similar to what we've seen with Bitcoin and MSTR. There's potential for a big breakout here. What drops very quickly can run up very quickly here. And just, zooming out, one thing to keep in mind with the price action of Mara is, one point in 2021, it ran up from like $3 to $81. So that all happened with, a limited amount of time. So rather than trying to time the market, knowing when to enter, it's more of, time in the market, because it's very difficult to time, when to get in, when to get out. Similar to like Bitcoin, most of the gains of Bitcoin, that all happens within 10 days out of the year. So let's say if you weren't able to time it right, getting into Bitcoin within those 10 days throughout the year, you basically missed the boat. But that's why time in the market is very important when it comes to investing and trading. But I think overall here, just with Mara's price action, 2025, it's very possible that we see somewhere around that price range of like $43 from my perspective. Let's take a look at CleanSpark here. So obviously what we're seeing is like since that run up back in 2024 from single digits, being one of the leading workhorse, getting up to $25. What happened since then to now? I mean, it's been just in this long-term bull flag here. I do see, a potential cup and handle forming here. The question is, have we seen, the full bleed out of CleanSpark here? Is there potential for it to run up? Great news. We saw positive upside in the Friday trading, but I do think that we may very well see a breakout here. Just with the fundamentals of CleanSpark, we saw really good news with their earnings report, just having, earnings per share dominating the expected results, as well as showing that they're able to generate revenue as a clear Bitcoin miner play. But just where the price is right now, I definitely do think CleanSpark is extremely undervalued at 797. With it dropping very fast from like 18 back in November, now down to like 797. That's like over 65% drop off. So when it drops that quick within a short duration of time, it could catapult very quickly here. So I do think there's nice conviction here. If you are a believer of the Bitcoin miner sector, where there's volatility, there's extreme upsides too. So that's just the name of the game here. When you have an appetite for risk, yes, it can drop, but when the relative strength just reverses, price action can just run back up. So, through patience, uh, price will change within a matter of like short-term duration. So I think where we are right now, 797, we could very well see the retest of 1791 as we head into Q2 of this year. Let's take a look at another Bitcoin miner. So this is Riot Platforms. So I have some things that I've drawn here. In red, I have a support level here of like 617. I don't think it's gonna hit that low. Just recently we saw that support level even test to about, somewhere around that low $7. It's been just heavily suppressed with, the bears here. You look at the relative strength, I mean, it's dropped down to about 20 here. So similar to like back in 2023 when the relative strength was extremely oversold But what happened when we saw RSI, down to 20? We always saw this, this reversal here. So just looking at 2023, we saw that high point here drawn in red. We also saw another RSI high point here drawn in red. And what happened there? That was the first heavy suppression there back in 2023. But what happened after that? Just from that, July to December. So, within a matter of like 5 months, we saw that next apex relative strength getting back up. What happened, back in February? That's when the Bitcoin price started running up again. Riot's price was around $18. So that's where the relative strength was around $70. And then what happened? Oversold again. RSI went down. But then when you compare the duration from that top point oversold to the next top point oversold from February to July, that was a duration of 5 months. And then when you compare the duration of the that apex of July to October, November, that was a few months after that. But one of the key things that I'm trying to indicate here is that for every low point RSI, there's going to be a bounce back of relative strength going back to like the overbought position. But given the fact that RSI, the last RSI was back in October 2024. And given that we're in that oversold territory, we're eventually going to see that RSI kick back up here into that 70, 80, which is what I have highlighted here. So it's been pushed out for quite some time here. And we're only going to see that price just bounce back up. That's just the nature of the technicals that we see with the Bitcoin miners. And if and when Bitcoin price starts reversing, gapping up into that 100, 150 to 180, we're very well going to see that, that retest back into that $20 range, back in 2023. And around that time, 2023, Bitcoin price wasn't even at the price that it is right now. So if and when Bitcoin doubles in price, we may very well see that retest of 20 and, we're off to the races there. So with that, a short clip of Michael Saylor. So Michael Saylor, take it away.
Nobody ever said, hey, only put the kids on the school bus that you don't need me to return. Only buy a ticket on my airplane if you don't need to reach the destination. The engineers of the world don't say, hey, don't drive across my bridge if you really need to reach the other side. And so what I say is only buy Bitcoin with the money you can't afford to lose. I'm not going to equivocate. You shouldn't equivocate. People that equivocate don't understand Bitcoin. They still don't get the idea of perfect money. We didn't invest in it because we wanted to take a risk. We invested it out of disgust with the world that forces us to take risk with everything else, where the risks are stacked against us and undisclosed.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video where we covered technicals of Bitcoin, MSTR, and the miners, as well as sharing with you some updates with where we're headed with the Bitcoin latest updates. If you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate the like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.